So this week we're talking with a Tesla Evangelist, Kelli Sloan from the Michigan Tesla Owners Club. She's not only the secretary, but she's a huge Tesla fan. Kelli, welcome on the show. And by the way, I'm Brian. Welcome to my Tesla weekend.
Well, thank you, Mr. White. We just love you. And Brian and I got to know each other at TeslaCon in Florida, which was a distinct pleasure. We love Brian here in Michigan. He's our guy, and we're grateful for all the wonderful work that you do for all of us.
TeslaCon Florida was a wonderful event. The speakers there were insanely good. There were some great resources. And for anyone who watches the channel, you know I ended up getting like 10 interviews out of it in 2 days. So it was a lot of work, but so much fun.
Not a lot of sleep, but a lot of fun.
Not a lot of sleep. Yeah, but we did have a great time. So what is a Tesla Evangelist? Well, in the case of Kelli and her husband Bert, they do a lot of outreach work, I guess you'd call it, like any good evangelist would. Let's start with Supercharger cleanups.
Yep. So as secretary of the Tesla Owners Club last July, we began a program called Adopt a Supercharger. And it has a couple of different caveats. First of all, we thought that it was important that as people traveled in the state of Michigan, that we left a good impression, not only with our fellow Tesla owners, but also on our community. I was born here in Michigan, and it's important to me that when people travel in Michigan, that, especially as Tesla owners, when they stop, there's a garbage can, there's somebody that's tending to making sure that things are picked up. A lot of the superchargers are in open areas, so there's a lot of wind. So you have trash that's not necessarily coming from the supercharger users, but it blows across from all different places in the parking lot. So this year, we started the program last July. It has been amazing. It's not the most glamorous work that you've ever done. Sometimes you run into some things that make you go, uh-oh, this is a little bit yucky. We wear a lot of gloves and use a lot of hand sanitizer. We also use grabbers to pick the garbage up. Nobody's picking it up with their hands. And so, but we've talked to some of the most amazing people. We've heard, as an evangelist, you want to hear other people's testimony. So as much as I talk, I love to listen to people who tell me about their travels across the country, across North America, the things that they love about their car. I love to answer questions. It has been truly an amazing experience. I mean, I'm grateful. The work, like I said, it's not glamorous, but it has been an enormous amount of fun and something that I really look forward to. I don't talk much, though.
No, very, very shy. So you work hand in hand with the service centers. You go in there, you cooperate, you have some meetings there sometimes. What's the relationship like there? What's that about?
So we just, actually in Ann Arbor, Michigan, we have a brand new service center that just opened up. Amazing team. Tesla Owners Club of Michigan hosted an event 2 weeks ago to welcome that team to our neighborhood, to introduce them to the crew that's going to be here to support them in every way. We're currently working on a ride and drive for the sales team, and looking forward to all the wonderful things that we can do, and talking to them about what other Tesla owners have done to be an evangelical related to their Teslas. I mean, we've been a Tesla owner for 5 years. We have a 2018 Model 3, and then I have a 2020 Model Y Performance, which is my baby. And we got our Model 3 on June 2nd of 2018. And when she was 5 days old, we took her to her first car show. And we had a group of 8-year-olds that ran down the street screaming, "It's a Tesla! It's a Tesla!" And it was like one of those moments that you knew that, especially young people. And so we started going to these car shows. We go to 2 or 3 a week, every single week, from the beginning of June through the beginning of October, every year since we've had the cars. And now that we have 2, Bert takes his, I take mine in much more pristine condition. But please, no one tell him that I said that.
Oh, don't worry. No one's going to see this.
No one will know. No one will know. And my husband will roar because he's just not a car guy. But his car, that's our girl. Our Stella that's our baby. She's our first Tesla that we had. And Mommy loves her up. Daddy, not so much. He just drives her.
So there's also something you told me about in Florida, new owner welcome packages.
Yes. So that is a big part of bringing people into the community. You know, even after having Teslas for 5 years, every time that there's a software update, and I mean, I work my day job, I work in tech, but sometimes when I'm in the car, you wouldn't know it because it's like when I get an update on my phone, I don't know what to do for a couple of days. I got to find a 5-year-old to skill me up on this stuff. Same thing kind of happens with the car. That I have to find someone, I have to call the younger people who are in the Tesla Owners Club and say, hey, okay, you're an engineer. What does this mean? That has become something that we've understood that new owners need to be welcome to this brand new environment. And I mean, for us, it's incredibly exciting to take someone who has never had that experience and bring them in, you know, knock the new off, help them get through. Let's go to a supercharger. Let's take it out. Let's drive. Let's answer the questions that you have. And so we have, as we work with the service teams, that has been something. And because not only do we try and focus on the cars, we focus on the mission. We understand what we understand what Elon has laid out as the mission and fully support that. And so as we're working with customers, we talk about new owners, we talk about solar, we talk about Starlink, we talk about all the different aspects of being in the Tesla in the Tesla environment that will matter to these customers in the long run. And so that's what I am as an evangelical Tesla owner. And it is my great joy to spend time talking to people. And it's brought me out of the shyness that I suffered from for so many years. And now look, can't shut me up.
What's in the welcome package?
So we usually, in the welcome package it's a grocery bag that people can use. And it says, let me tell you about the EV lifestyle. In the bag will include things like information about podcasters, YouTubers, the people that they can follow to get information, where information is available, our cards with our phone numbers, information so that they can, and then I always put candy, you got to have snacks in your car. So I like to throw in a few little goodies, and every once in a while we'll get some swag that we can put into those bags. And we also give those to people who come to events, who are, coming as enthusiasts or coming to get information. It's a big part of what the Tesla Owners Club does all the time. I mean, we live in a very competitive environment in Michigan, and that's one of the conversations that we've had lately, is that some of the people who have come into the new sales and service, they didn't understand the difference of Tesla in Detroit compared to Tesla in Chicago. When we're an automotive mecca here, we're not really the hometown boys, and yet we have approximately 60,000 Tesla owners in Michigan. We matter. And we want the people who are interested in Teslas to understand that we're all passionate about it, because I work in tech, and I told you this exact same thing. It's probably one of my favorite lines. I have worked in tech for nearly 40 years, but this is the first computer that ever drove me to work. And I absolutely love the fact that I can blend my career into my passion today. And so that's the reason that I'm an evangelist. And my husband is actually the one who started this with me with Tesla. I worked in automotive for my entire career, knew about Tesla peripherally, and then I met my husband, and he ruined me. I used to be a nice, normal girl, and here I am today, old woman, completely lost my mind and loving every single moment of it.
So all that's great. That's reaching out to people who are already on board and making them a little more on board. But what would be really great is if you could find people who don't have one, who don't already own one, who don't already drive one, and like somehow get them into a car and let them see what the driving experience is like. How could you do that?
Well, when you go to car shows, it's amazing the number of people who come up and they say, who makes that? Toyota? We'd say, no, Tesla. Okay, that is a Tesla, but who makes it? Mitsubishi? No, Tesla. Well, where do they make it? Fremont, California. Are you sure? Am I breathing? Of course I'm sure. Let me show you a little bit. And I'd pull out my phone or my iPad and we'd go down and we'd show them. I can't wait till the Cybertruck comes because believe me, you think I'm an evangelical person today? I won't need a microphone, I promise. I'm going to be screaming with joy like no one has ever heard before. And so that's what we do. Go out in the community. You know, if people come out and they say, hey, that's a Tesla. Yeah, do you have any questions? Do you want to drive it? Do you want to find out? We have full self-driving on both of our computers, or on both of the cars. Sorry, that was a Freudian slip, right, so to speak. And so you know, I'll let anybody drive my car. I've driven at the request of other people to say, hey, we've got somebody who lives up in Bay City, Michigan. It's about an hour and a half from me. Do you think you could take your car up and let her drive it? Absolutely, let's go.
Well, and then there's Uber.
There's another. That was quite an interesting experience. So Brian knows my whole story. So I have a full-time gig. I'm not retired. My husband is retired. So after the program started for Adopt a Superchargers, we found a lot of, we'd be at a Supercharger just cleaning up the grounds, and a car would pull in, and anybody who drives a Tesla knows that when you go to the Supercharger, with the exception of possibly one of the chargers, you need to back in to have the cable close enough as the rendering behind you, Brian, to have the plug close enough to plug the car in. So we'll be, you know, managing the grounds, and somebody pulls in, and you look at them and you're like, uh-oh, newbie. So we started, this happened on multiple occasions throughout the first week that we were doing this. And every time when we approached the person, they were an Uber driver. And what happened was we would spend an hour or an hour and a half because they would explain to us that their experience was they would go to Hertz, they would be approved to get the Tesla, and Hertz would say, here you go, have a ball. Now, there were some drivers who went on YouTube and did some due diligence, but it's just not the same. I mean, I can tell you all day how wonderful Moldova is, but until you go, you're not living it. So that's kind of the experience with Tesla. I can tell you all day how great it is. That's why I'll let you take my car. Not a problem, because you have to experience it for yourself. Well, the Uber drivers who are getting these cars from Hertz get zero help. And we've traveled all across the United States, and it is absolutely systemic. So last August, I started reaching out to Uber and Hertz because I can throw 500 people on a Zoom and answer questions. I've got a whole team of engineers in the Tesla Owners Club who are willing to answer questions. I've given out 5,000 of my club cards. It's got my personal cell phone on it. Anybody can call me anytime. If you call me at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, listen, how do I precondition my battery because I'm in Salt Lake City and I need to charge, I'll tell you. It's not a problem. But Uber and Hertz did not, although I had multiple conversations and they thought it was a really great idea, nobody took me up on it. Now, I will tell everyone, I did not say, I have my own consulting company. I didn't say I was charging. I was absolutely going to do this for free. All I needed was the platform to go out to the Uber drivers so that they would know how to get to me, so that I could line the people up to help them. And it hasn't happened. So 10 months, I still go to Superchargers. I still clean up the grounds. I still talk to new drivers. I still do everything that I've done. And I'm going to keep right on doing it for as long as it takes, that every person. And there's a couple of different reasons, honestly, that I do that. Is because, number one, I want the passenger in an Uber, if they're an interested party, to have someone who's knowledgeable enough about the vehicle to actually give them a Tesla experience. That's one of the things that I do. If someone's afraid to drive the car, first thing I'll ask is, I told Brian this story before. I had a group of police officers came up to us at a 9/11 car show. And so they were encouraging a fellow officer to get in, but everybody got in the car. So we went on a private road, and I said, okay, I'm going to ask you guys the same thing that I ask everybody else who's doing it, getting a test drive. Do you want to ride, or do you want the Tesla experience? And I am driving a Model Y Performance, so believe me, I can give them an experience. And all three of the officers said, oh no, we want the experience. And I'm like, okay, nobody can shoot me, but put your seatbelts on and let's do this. And we went out and we came back and they were like, we need to go find our chief right now. We want you to talk to him. We need this vehicle. And now we see that police departments all across the country are bringing the Model Y on, and it makes perfect sense. You know, when they do the studies about how much money they've saved and everything else, you know, so we're constantly sucking up information so that we can share that to all of these people that we're talking to. You have to kind of find a way to bring that knowledge and make it seem that it assimilates with their life. So is it something that would make sense to them? Is it something that they might experience? And so that's what we try and do.
And did you drive an Uber for a while?
I did. So because I could not get Uber and Hertz to engage, I took my Model Y Performance that's white on white, and I went out and I started the week between Christmas and New Year's, and I drove for a month. And I was driving like 35 hours a week, had like the most amazing experience. I loved it. It was just too much to sustain long term. If I did it again, I'd probably rent a Tesla and do that rather than, I didn't have any injuries to my car, but I did put a lot of miles on my car, like riding around. And so I don't know that I'd necessarily recommend it unless you need a gig. For me, it was more to raise money, to donate to animal shelters. That was really kind of my thing. And so, but I got to talk, and I had so I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan, so where University of Michigan was. So I happened to be driving the week that all the kids came back after winter break. And I pick up this young man, and on my phone, I get this, and it says it's Lord something something. I'm like, oh, really? So anyway, I pick this young man up. He is royalty from Europe. Gets in my car, and usually, I'd have to tell people like how to open up the door. Press the fat part with your finger, and the handle comes out, and this kid just rolls up to the car, and he just jumps right in. And his name was Lord Baron something. I won't say his name, but anyway, he gets in my car and proceeds to explain to me that he had just come back to Michigan to school from holiday, and that his family has 3 Teslas, and that he had tried to buy a Tesla in the U.S., but because he's a foreign student, the insurance would be so obscene that it just didn't make sense. So anyway, he ended up, I gave him, and like I said, I've given out thousands of cards, so anybody, if they talk to me about Tesla in the car, I handed them my card and said, call me, text me, email me, whatever you need to do, I'll answer your questions. I have spoken to him, and he is working on getting a Tesla because he wants to drive for Uber while he's in school, which I thought was great. I thought, well, he's a royalty, but he's an enterprising young man. You gotta give him kudos for it.
Winding down here, but before your Model Y, what was your previous car?
Ford Taurus X, a station wagon.
Wow. And what was Bert's previous car?
Toyota or a Honda CRV.
So we're not talking about people going from S-Class or even 3 or 5 or 7 Series BMWs. We're talking about, and we see this a lot, when it came to the most common vehicles traded in for the Model 3, they were expecting it to all be BMWs and Mercedes, but they were mostly Toyotas and Camrys and Accords, which makes sense. Those are the most common cars. These really are everyday cars.
Yep.
So the last thing we should have mentioned is I'm going to be going to Michigan.
Yes,
Tell me about that.
Yes, yay. So on June 17th is our big Tesla event. Is the summer meetup for Tesla Owners Club of Michigan. We're going to hit the beach in Pierre Marquette. And this picture, I don't know, can you see it at all?
Oh, I'll have it up in the edit.
Okay, so the picture was taken just as the sun was getting ready to set. This was about 8:50 p.m. And we had an original Roadster from one of our Tesla Owners Club members. He actually lives in Indiana, but Dan comes up every year for this meetup. And then we had the new Model S, older model, a 2017 Model S, a Model 3, a Model X, a Model Y. And so we lined all the red cars up on the beach, and it's an amazing picture, something that the Tesla Owners Club will be very proud of for many, many years.
So if you're in the Michigan area, June 17th, there's going to be a fun event. There's going to be a bunch of different guest speakers. I know Chris from Dirty Tesla is going to be there. I know I'm going to be there. And more to be announced. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
We're just waiting for confirmation. We have a lot of irons in the fire, but we want to make it an amazing, memorable day for everyone. But it's going to be the beach in Michigan, so it should be warm and breezy. And so bring your enthusiasm, because we're going to be there to light you up. We'll be glad for anybody who's willing to come out.
Well, Kelly, I want to thank you so much for coming on. To everybody in the comments, let us know, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? Why are you evangelical about Tesla, and how are you evangelical about it? So stay tuned, stay juicy, and I can't wait to hear from you clever robots on my Patreon, maybe. Oh, I forgot to mention that. That's right. Kelly's on there. You'll see her. So, yeah, stay tuned and juicy and all that good stuff. And I'll see you clever robots in Michigan? Maybe.
There we go.